Oh my God, I love this sport. I love this sport. What is going on, everybody? How are we doing? How are we doing? Can I ask one thing? Because I know there's been a lot of negativity this year surrounding Chase Elliott. Um, you just want to spam some nines in the chat because holy hell, that finish to me was worth the wait. We had great racing for a lot of the day. It was difficult to pass. There were some lulls. I totally get that. But we had really hard, tough racing in those last couple runs, long green flag runs that saw strategy play into it, chaos in the finish, a wall ride on the side. And that's not the first time we've seen the 38 ride the wall like that. Absolutely crazy. And then right after that, Chase Elliott goes out there and the seas parted for him. It was just the perfect parting of the seas for him. And that's not even scratching the surface of so many different storylines in this race. Playoffs, no playoffs, different stories from outside the racing sphere in general. So much to go over tonight. But now that we're done with spamming, I want to ask y'all in the chat, give me your rating for this race right now out of 10. 10 being the best race you ever seen, 1 being the worst. I know that emotions are high and everything. Let me know. Let's see what we got. And I'm seeing 10, 8, 69. Nice. Very nice. Hopefully I don't lag out. I don't know why the internet's having issues on my end. But we're just going to keep going. 1,000. It was mad to the finish. I get that one. 8.8 top. Let's see. 8.8 top 10 out of 10. It's going so fast. I can't actually get it. It's absolutely wild, man. Absolutely wild finish to this race. I'm just seeing all these different ones you guys are putting. I'm trying to hit them all, but it's not letting me. I'm seeing absolute cinema. Herbie is on the fence moment. 7.5, 88, 6.7 or 67, not 6.7. You know, I'll tell you what, man, there is to me, it was everything you like about NASCAR you could get out of this race. A lot of the frustrations of the next gen, sure, there was that too. But with that being said, let me, while I'm thinking about it, let me just make sure I turn everything internet-wise off. I don't know why, but it's just not. I hope it's working on your end. It's like glitching on mine. Let's go through the finishing order of this race. How about that? With 750 to 800 of y'all coming in here. More of y'all I know are going to come on in. We're 5 minutes in, and it's just absolutely nuts. And that's the best way I can put it. Like, I wish I was there. I was putting in the finishing order of this race, and my wife came in, and on the first thing I said was, God, I wish I was there. I wish this was the first Kansas fall race that I have not been at since 2018, which is kind of crazy to see. I'm taking a picture of the points as we go. And man, what a finish and what a race to miss. Like, I wish I was there so damn bad. I'm happy that Eric was there. I can't wait to hear his stories of it. I know that he got put on the RFK Twitter account or X account. But let's go over the finishing order of this race. This race was 3 hours, 19 minutes, and 34 seconds long. We had 9 cautions for 48 laps, 20 lead changes, and a margin of victory of 0.069 seconds. Just an absolutely nice way to finish this off. Chase Elliott, the most popular driver in NASCAR, leads 24 laps today and goes on to win this just over Denny Hamlin, who, again, 0.069 seconds, that close to getting it in there, at least from my end. And I'm a little behind, but Bubba going to shake hands with his boss, Denny Hamlin. It woulda, coulda, shoulda for both of them in this one. We'll cover that in a moment. Christopher Bell running up there for the lead, coming to the white flag, contact with the 23, still comes back to a third place run. I was that close to getting the sweep on my picks, man, that close. Chase Briscoe with the fourth place run. That JGR speed was there all day, except for the 54. Bubba Wallace, fifth place run, leading on the final restarts. Ultimately, though, not able to close out the deal. Some of that with the 11 getting into him as well. Kyle Larson in sixth. Looked pretty much like Kyle Larson a lot of today. Maybe not dominant, but at the same time, really damn good. And then you have Tyler Reddick in seventh. Brad Keselowski, eighth, coming back from being a lap down or near a lap down for much of this race. William Byron ran 25th all day. Somehow was in the top 5 on the final restart. Ninth place finish for him. And I know y'all want me to talk about him. I know everybody's going to point it out. And I made a prediction on NWP, so this is going to make me right. Shane Van Gisbergen, his first top 10 in NASCAR, not on a road course, not on a super speedway, in the Cup Series. Shane Van Gisbergen, SVG, gets himself a top 10 finish today. And it wasn't a fluke. He ran top 20, top 15 pretty much all day long. Yeah, I'm seeing it. Spam those Kiwis in the chat, y'all. I absolutely love it. You know, he was there. He was there all day in that top 20, top 15 range. And you know what? When you're in that range and you have the craziness of final restarts, you're able to move your way up. But even in that last run before we saw the overtimes, he was passing Ross Chastain for 13th place today. So give him credit there. Ross, of course, finishing 11th. So we got the Kiwi in front of the melon. Todd Gilliland with a 12th place run today. He'll get home there. Ty Dillon in the 13th spot. Michael McDowell, 14th. Buescher, Jones, Suarez, Haley, Kyle Busch, and Cole Custer, the top 20. Then Joey Logano in 21st. About all he could salvage. Herbst in 22nd. Gregson 23rd. Terrible day two for Ryan Blaney in 24th. 25th, last on the lead lap, Ty Gibbs. From there, 2 laps down. That is Ryan Preece, Austin Dillon, and Alex Bowman. And then 29th, 4 down is Hocevar, as well as Cindric in 30th. Out of the race, Zane Smith, 31st, John Hunter Nemechek, 32nd, and Josh Berry, 33rd. 12 laps down for JJ Yaley, and then Stenhouse in 35th. Out of the race as well for AJ Allmendinger in 36th, and Cody Ware out after finishing 37th today. All right. I want to take a breath here. Let's talk about the finish. We got to talk about the finish, right? You had contact with multiple different Toyotas up there. I mean, this was Toyota's race to lose. I'm watching the replay where Chase Elliott gets into the 11, and it is 4 Toyotas all on screen with that one Hendrick Motorsport Chevrolet. You know, I know that people will probably criticize the way that they raced each other or how hard they raced each other. But to me, you're going for the victory. I really don't think, you know, I know that beforehand they talked about it before like the restart. I don't think necessarily that playoffs necessarily fed into it as much as, quite frankly, going for the win. For Denny Hamlin, gets on up into Bubba Wallace, makes contact with him, makes contact down the track with the 9, led a lot of this race and was far and away the best car, had electrical issues, had power steering issues, and he stayed in it. Now, it might not have been completely gone, but it definitely, I think, affected him in that last restart. And with it, you know, it cost him a shot, but also he still got himself in position for a shot, right? But he's going to kick himself. That is going to be one, especially with as little amount of time relatively that is left in Hamlin's career. That's going to be one that I think he looks back on and grimaces at, because when you when you're that close to victory in the Cup Series, it is hard to win in the Cup Series. I know I sound, and I saw some of you saying this. I sound like Jeff Burton saying this. When you're that close, man, that close, and with how hard it is to win, I might have an effect on him. Last couple of weeks, plus the lawsuit, everything else like that. It's worth noting that could have an effect on him moving forward. Bubba Wallace, great run today. Toyota in general was on it. He had a great run. Bell was up there. The two of them racing really hard on those restarts. But of course, you got to talk Chase Elliott here. That 9 team has, in some ways, rightfully been under a lot of scrutiny this year. They have been the third Hendrick team for a lot of the year. They've been behind the 5 a lot of the time until the 5 kind of regressed a little. They've been behind the 24. And there's been a lot of talk about, like, man, they need to get rid of Allen. That's been a big thing when the Elliott fans get the talking stick is fire Allen. Well, today Allen made a pretty wild, move when you look at it in terms of the restart that it was meant to be on, of taking 4 tires, putting the 9 towards the back on one of those last restarts. They stay in it. He has that extra grip, and that extra grip made a huge difference in him, I think, staying up there with those faster Toyotas, getting the win. It didn't matter as much as we probably would have wanted when it came to tires today. I think there's still some pretty big work that will probably need to be done with that. But when you look at every little bit, I think that's something that played a factor. And with it, Elliott advances. He's safe going into the Roval. He was probably going to run good there anyway, but those added points, the added confidence of the win, it goes a long way. And Elliott, again, as much as everyone wants to say how cooked he is or how he's, just not going to keep up with any of the other Hendrick cars, the Gibbs cars, any of that, he still stays in it, gets in the round of 8 again, and Martinsville's in that round. That's a great track for him. He's won in this next-gen car at Talladega. That's a good track for him. So don't count him out to make it all the way to the end. Definitely. Don't count him out with that. Looking at the points, of course, Elliott and Blaney make it on past. With that, though, you have a pretty big gap for a lot of guys. Kyle Larson plus 54. He pretty much just has to start and get a few stage points, and that's pretty much it. He'll lock himself in with no new winners. Plus 48 for Hamlin, plus 44 for Bell, plus 40 for Byron, 21 for Briscoe, plus 13 for Logano, in right now in 8th. Then after that, you got Ross Chastain minus 13, Bubba Wallace minus 26, Tyler Reddick minus 29, and minus 48. Definitely must win. Although I think the 2 ahead of him definitely are too, with Bubba and Reddick. That is Cindric. So I'll put the points down in the bottom for y'all. But I love these finishes, man. I love these finishes. I love these Kansas races. I still think it's one of the best tracks out there, even if it might have been a little diminished this year in the racing. But we've went this far. We're almost 15 minutes in. I got to talk about the Zane Smith deal. On I believe overtime number 1, the 20 and the 23 are racing up front. The 19's up there. It's just a lot of hard racing that we're focused there. And then they say crash. And I'm thinking, all right, here we go. Like, stupid crash. And they just cut to the 38 car, just riding the dente on the, doing a sideways Hail Melon, whatever you want to call it. That 38 car is riding the fence. And we've seen that happen before in the then, I believe it was the Busch Series era. It might have been Nationwide, but I think it was the Busch Series era where the 38 did that. But I can't remember, I think, at a track like this big of a track, that kind of thing happening. Maybe it has. It probably has. Those new cameras they put in a few years ago in 3 and 4 were perfect for that. So credit to NBC and Fox for that, because both of them utilized those cameras more. Or at least if they weren't newly put in, they've been utilized much more. But the 38 just gets onto his side, rides the wall for, I don't know, probably half the duration of the corner, gets down the track and starts barrel rolling and then ends up flipping over at the very end. One of the things that I think people underestimate about Kansas is that this track, for whatever reason, has these wild, insane crashes, whether it's a really hard crash, whether it's flips like we've seen multiple times before, whatever it is. I don't know what it is, if it's something in the water there, if it's something in the air, whatever it is. Kansas has these absolutely just ass backwards, crazy, crazy moments. And we saw it again. We saw it again. I just I have not, I think, been that surprised by a crash and how it happened and cutting to it than that. And let's see. Oh God, this is, you'd say insane crashes. Oh, that's bad. Funny, but bad. um yeah, that's good. Dale Jr. got concussion at it, but I like this is true. It's a Talladega of mile-and-a-half tracks. I think it's a great way to put it, outside of course, Atlanta, because they super speedwayified it. But I think that's a good way to put it. It really ends up being that way a lot of the time. Seeing everyone saying Herbie Smith is one, and all that. Of course, I'm seeing some. I get people that might not have liked this race as much, for sure. But we have the poll up right now on the posts tab on the channel, and let's see where we're at with that one. Pretty positive. I'm not surprised. Relatively good race. Crazy finish. And then you add to that to Chase Elliott winning. I totally get that. But there was so much in this race too that we could look at. I'm looking through. Y'all know I like taking my notes during these races. And there was a lot in the first stage and third stage. I think the second one kind of lulled down a little too much. I think that's where people kind of started getting bored and they're like, the racing's not good and all of that. I get that part. But that's Kansas. I think Kansas has kind of been like this for a while, where you start off kind of good and crazy, and then you kind of like get into a rhythm, and then the end just explodes with absolute madness. Because there was a lot of passing for the lead early on, even though Denny led a lot of this race. How many laps did Denny lead? He led 159. Holy Jesus. Man, he's going to kick himself for this one. And green flag stops. There was some strategy plays that ended up being a really big deal in this. 2 tire stops for the 11 and 22. Hamlin wins the stage. He had the best car. Tires definitely need to mean more. I will say that as a little nitpick of this race. I do think tires need to mean more at mile-and-a-halves. And I think that's a valid critique to talk about with this. But the 22 as well, managing to stay up there, finishes 7th in the stage. And he pretty much, after being a sub, I don't know if sub 20th, just because I started so far back, but definitely being a middle of the pack car, he's able to stay up and finish 7th in both stages. Those 8 points, they might make a big difference next week, because we don't know. Joey Logano's pretty good at road courses in the Roval, but you don't know. The second stage too, there was the crash between the 60 and the 42, or the 60 just kind of drifted up into John Hunter Nemechek. Wouldn't be the last time we called John Hunter Nemechek's name with this, when it came to chaos and crashing and all of that. But this is where Denny Hamlin, about 95 laps into this race, reports throttle sticking issues, or I think are a few little electrical gremlins too. And that's even before we get to the talk of and I don't know what the hell's on now. That's even before we get to the talk of the power steering issues for the 11. So regardless of where he finished, second, I know has to suck, especially if you're a Denny fan out there. It has to suck right now. But to fight back that much through those throttle sticking issues, through different electrical gremlins they talked about a little bit, through the pit crew having issues, not getting the jack right under the car on one of the crucial pit stops. Again, remember, a lot of shuffling because of the penalties. And then, of course, the power steering side. I mean, whether you're a Denny fan or a Denny hater, you got to give the guy credit. He gutted out an absolutely insanely difficult race. Uh, and had he won, I think that would have been one of the, I think, greatest stories from green flag to checkered flag you could tell of winning a race. 0.069 nice seconds away from that. As we've well overtopped 1,000 live viewers, want to let you know we'll be live Wednesday night on Eric's channel with Jeff Faviano as guest for NWP, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Be sure to be there. Eric's at the track right now. He's probably got plenty of crazy stuff to tell us about that one for sure. I want to note something else. And you know, with the NBC side of the year, we haven't really talked as much about it, but there has been a little bit of chatter, and I think that's worth bringing up. The feed cut out at one point. Like, I don't know, maybe it was just me on the YouTube TV side. They were having trouble for the umpteenth millionth time putting up the banner saying YouTube TV and NBC split and blah 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 and all that crap. But not good. I'm glad it was a quick blip, and I think the reason they went to commercial right after is to make sure they fixed it all. But that gave me flashes of when I was at a Gateway a couple years ago, and it just completely went out. Okay, so it was everybody. And I saw a lot of people had that, but I just wanted to know it was definitely a USA issue, for sure. Definitely an issue on their end. But on the other end, though, I will bring up that banner for a quick moment. That was so damn annoying to constantly see all race. I get they're having their dispute. I get they have to make it front and center. I get they want the best of their deal. And by September 30th, we won't get a USA. They always figure it out. And all of us that pay for YouTube TV will probably have to pay $10 more a month because YouTube can't negotiate worth of shit. But for the love of God, can you stop just putting it on the screen constantly? That's my biggest problem with the race today is and it's not even the USA broadcast team, like in those at the track. It's just, you know, Comcast or whoever the hell, NBC Sports, whoever the hell is in charge of that side of it. Cause I know the channel spun off. It's just, come on. I'm glad they didn't block anything important. They just blocked the NASCAR and the sponsors, which I'm sure they're probably not happy with. So it was pretty deliberate of where they put it in comparison to the rest of the screen. But that was the one nitpick bad thing I really just didn't like today. Which says a lot. You know, if the thing you don't like is that like one ticker got shown too much, you probably had a good day. And I know I'm probably more positive than most on this. I was probably in that 9 out of 10 range, 9.5 out of 10 range. I think it might not be as good as the greatest all-time Kansas races we've seen with this car. But I still think it was a pretty damn good race. And I think the finish definitely elevates it a little bit. But I think that y'all have known me over the years that I'm not somebody who, even if it's a shit race, but a great finish, just elevates it from like a 4 out of 10 to an 8 or 9 out of 10 just because of the finish. The finish is a big part. It's not the whole race. Hence why I don't think the last couple races at Kentucky were any good, even though the finishes were pretty damn awesome those last like 2 or 3 years. The final stage is just sort of like a mix of both the first and the second stage. You have Hocevar clipping JJ Yaley. Won't be the last time that Hocevar is involved in stuff today. And a restart that had, I believe, like an 8 or 9 car crash with about 50 laps to go. This collected Cindric, Logano, has Hocevar, Kyle Busch to me, Kyle Busch's race was just kind of mercy killed there. Like he could just ride around at the back and just finish it. I think honestly, he's probably wishing that it wasn't just a small little bit that would just put him in the back away from, you know, a little further up in the back where he was running. He's probably wishing they would have ended up actually crashing him out of this race. But it looked like the 4 kind of drifted up, kind of got into the 22 and maybe one other car, then collects the 2, kicks it all off from there. Just those restarts happen. There's been so many times because I always sit right in the middle of the tri-oval up underneath the press boxes in the grandstands at Kansas when I go there. And there's so many times that you'll see these restarts where these guys are just that close to having this pinched off wreck that's going to collect half the field. This time they finally ended up actually doing it. Which is the damn shame for a couple of these guys, because I'm looking at some of them that were collected and they were actually having some pretty decent runs in this. Some of them, of course, continuing on because it's not terrible, but some were making something out of nothing towards the end there. You had Bowman in the wall. He ended up kind of getting squeezed with the 88 and the 24. Just nowhere to go for him, unfortunately. You had the 8 and the 5 both making wall contact. And I think, because this is about with 30 or so-ish to go, maybe 35 to go when the 8 got in the wall. I think this is exactly what caused Kyle Busch to have that flat later on, to have the tire carcass that would end up changing the course of the race from Denny and probably Bell going for it to just the pandemonium we ended up actually seeing. I think it was this moment, 15 to go. That's when you saw guys taking 2 tires. That's when you saw the 9 of Chase Elliott getting a 4-tire stop. And they finally got it going with 9 to go. Of course, Hocevar, again, he gets up into the wall. And I think it was Buescher ends up getting into the back of him early with nowhere to go and just sends him. I will say this too. Credit to NASCAR for waiting a moment to see if he could keep going. Single car spin out of the racing groove. I know people have been very critical of the way NASCAR calls things. I know there's been the news this week of letting go the guy that was there before with a lot of that. Credit to them for waiting a moment to see if the 77 would get back going and wouldn't get stuck or have any issues. I think that was the right call in that moment. I think it was really good of them to have a few seconds of patience and then throw the yellow once it was clear he wasn't going to be moving. He was going to be up in the racetrack. I know that, I know that that's something that's going to probably be talked about through the week a little bit. Now, what I don't like is the fact that these cautions still are taking way too damn long, whether it be at the end of the race. I mean, when you have a caution come to 8 to go and it leads you to overtime and it's a single car spin, I think that unless the broadcast can show something different, pretty inexcusable. We've seen NASCAR have these problems for years in the trucks, definitely in the Xfinity series at times. And now we've seen it much more, in my opinion, this year. We've seen it rise up in recent years. But I just don't get why it takes that long, and I know that NASCAR doesn't want to red flag things or anything else, but if it's going to take that long, why not red flag the race? Let them clean it up, get the most possible racing out of it. Because for all we knew, that first overtime, that was going to be it. And we could have instead had maybe a 4 or 5 lap run to the finish. Luckily, again, we had a great finish. The result ended up being pretty damn good either way. But I think that's just something to kind of work on moving forward with that. And then, of course, we get to the first overtime we talked about with the 38 riding the Dente on the fence. I feel like that even when Chili stops sponsoring NASCAR, we're going to be just calling it riding the Dente because it's just so dumb, but so funny at the same time when you use it out of context. The 42 just pinches the 38 and he just popped right up onto the wall. Have I mentioned, and I know there's so many of y'all that have come in now from that hadn't been watching before the broadcast, and have I mentioned that I really, really wish I would have been at this race today? Oh man. Either way, still awesome. It just makes me want to go to Kansas even more next year, which, and you know what, and I'll say this too. If they could work on the tires a little bit, where I'm really, really excited is when I'm going to be going next July 4th weekend and I get to go to Chicagoland Speedway again for the first time since 2019. I can't wait to see this car there, especially if they get some tires that even fall off more, an older racetrack surface than the Kansas Speedway. Kansas repaved in 2012, I believe, whereas Chicagoland Speedway on its original pavement now can probably get a few good years of juice out of that thing too. I am really excited. And I know Braden Bunch saying 800 horsepower, please. Sounds like Brad Keselowski said probably somewhere from 740 to maybe 750, 760, somewhere around there. So we won't get to 800, but we'll definitely get closer next year. So there'll be more horsepower too. And even that little bit again, we've seen baby steps being made with this car more and more. I will take that if it means helping out the racing more and more and more with that. And I do agree with this. I think NASCAR definitely will review all the crashes for safety reasons, but they're also going to be celebrating the tickets I sold. And that's the thing. It's like, I think some will buy for the crashes, but I think others will buy for the racing. I get it might not this race was not maybe as good as the spring race last year. Totally get that. But I also think a lot of people right now, and this is kind of like my state of the Kansas, not state of the sport, but just like state of Kansas here. I think a lot of people are putting Kansas almost too high on how good the racing has to be. Again, I think today was probably a step below the best. But it's still, especially for the next gen era, and even in general, I would say this is a pretty damn solid race and a lot of fun to watch in a lot of aspects. Were there lulls? Sure. But like I said before, that is Kansas Speedway for you. And I think people are just a little too much. I hesitate to say overrating Kansas, but I think that people are just a little bit too much over expecting out of Kansas. I think now after that 2024 spring race, I think a lot of people, especially the buildup we had before it, are almost expecting that we have an all-time classic every time, that we have, a 10 out of 10 every time. And 10 out of 10s, they don't come around a bunch every year. But I will say this, and I don't know if I've said this at all this year, but 3 straight weeks for me. This is the 3rd straight week that I come out of the Cup race and I think, damn, that race was a lot of fun to watch. That race, I would say, was the best race of the weekend 3 weeks in a row, and it was the Cup Series. Towards the end of the year, I know there's a lot of negativity and other things surrounding the sport and the end of the year and all others conversations. But to me, this was a little over 3 hours of really damn solid racing. Definitely can improve. I get that. And I hear you and I see you in the chat for those who might not like it. But we we got to take what we can get to on other ends. I don't think this is a take what we can get race. I think this was a really damn good race. Was it take to get a 10 out of 10 race? To me, 10 out of 10 races, I hesitate to give a race a 10 out of 10 simply because they should be reserved for the races that have a lot of action throughout them, they can have crashes and going to overtime or even any of that. I know a lot of people don't like giving it that if it has that, but it has a lot of action, a lot of solid racing, guys passing throughout the day. And let's be honest, Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, Bubba Wallace were able to pass through the day. Chase Elliott was able to. Kyle Larson at times was able to. There was comers and goers. I think it takes that. I think it takes having a really good finish to close it out as well. When I think a 10 out of 10 race, the best way I can give a 10 out of 10 race example is last year at Homestead. The race throughout the entire day was a ton of fun, great strategies going, comers and goers, passing, just action throughout, and an amazing finish to boot on top of all of that. I think of some of the Atlanta races we've seen in recent years. I think of 2024 spring Kansas. I want to hold them in a high category. To me, I would say, and this is just how I do it, I only give maybe 2 or 3 10 out of 10s a year. If there's more, it's a season like 2011 that's a god tier all-time great one, or 2014 or 2004 or 5. It's really difficult for me to give more than that just because maybe it's just me. I hold it maybe to too high of a standard too. But I thought today delivered, if you can't tell. I'm very, very high on this track and race, and I think that it delivered in a great, great way today. But with that, I think that covers a lot of it, and I want to hear what you guys have to say. I've been watching the chat too. Let's look at the Super Chat cool down lap. Again, remember, we'll be live on Eric Estep's channel this Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern time with Jeff Fabiano as guest, talk about NASCAR 25, this race, the Roval to come. The Roval, man, that's going to be wild. Especially if something happens and Shane has to not lead the entire thing. And if you can't catch it live, we always re-upload it there. There we go. We always re-upload it there. It's a new feature I have. I want to try and use it. So ton of stuff to talk about this week. Looking at the super chats though, a few from before the show. Jeffrey King, who I see has a 9 profile picture, says for a 5 and a 2. Says, yes, not the fastest today, but he did it. I was screaming, I need oxygen. 21st win. Hey, it doesn't matter if you lead the most laps. It's just you need to lead the last one. And true, too. Elliott fastest Chevy all day. I think Larson might have had him at certain points, but consistently the 9 was the fastest Chevy and was the outlier today. Let's see. K-Sean here saying, where are you at? For the 2, saying, everyone at Toyota made Ty Jesus look like a saint. And then also says, hey Riley, how does it feel to be the cleanest Yoda? So I don't think any of that was dirty personally. I think that this is NASCAR. We have fenders, we have, big ass cars that can be hit back and forth, and especially with these bodies now that form back into place. I really don't find too much that really egregious personally. Daniel says he has risen again. The 9 has risen. Let's see. Elliott fan number 9 saying, let's go. I'm not going to scream every one of them. With a 9 on there too. SW says, I can't be mad at the end. It hurts. Bubba really fought to the bitter end. This race rules. I almost said this place, and I would agree on both statements. This place and race rules. We always say that Kansas is the best on the schedule. Yeah, I think Kansas and Charlotte are neck and neck. Those 2 mile-and-a-halfs. This is why I'm glad we have Chicagoland coming back on top of my own selfish needs of having it back. This is why I'm really, really more than ever pushing that we have a 400 or 500 mile Charlotte race instead of the Roval in the playoffs, or if there's not playoffs based on what we heard this week at the end of the season. I want that. That's why I want Homestead as the finale. I want to end the season and have a season full of more of these. We don't have to double them up like we used to. I won't stump for like Kentucky necessarily. I don't know if the next gen's powers at these tracks go that far. But I want a few more mile-and-a-halfs. We don't have to oversaturate with cookie cutters again like we did before. We'd have like 2 Michigans, and Fontana's no longer with us. RIP. But I do think we need a couple more of these. And we can have still a good balance and a trade-off with it. Because I want more races like we saw today, and like we see at Charlotte in the 600, and like we've seen at Vegas, as well. I want to see more of these kind of races to come. I really, really do. And it's crazy because for the longest time, I couldn't stand the cookie cutters, but you know what? Car changes, data changes, racing changes. And now schedule probably has to change accordingly as long as people tune in. Knock on wood. Let's see. Blame the Dogs says, what a race. This definitely is a great on the poll this week. Yeah, and it's looking like that's the heavy favorite right now, for sure. Robbie here saying, Chase Elliott odds for Vegas weeks. If it's odds for Las Vegas's race, he's got to be one of the favorites. Definitely up there. And they're going to have 2 weeks now to prepare for that race. So I see no reason why he shouldn't compete unless they just completely miss the setup or strategy or something. Brandon with Canadian 7 saying, not gonna lie, Zane Smith riding the wall kind of reminded me of Martin Truex Jr. back in 2005 at Richmond when he raced in the Xfinity Series. It reminded me of that. I think it was Casey Kane in the 38 as well that did that. It reminded me of a lot of those kind of older Gen 4 Busch series back in the day, and Nationwide series wrecks, sort of in that era that we'd see. Let's see. Max for the 5 saying, thank God for Chase Elliott. I have never rooted for Denny Hamlin so hard. Is it fair to say, or never root? Are you rooting for both of them or what? Is it fair to say that it was the race of the year? 9 out of 10 for me, if not 10. I don't know. I don't know about race of the year just yet. I don't think it reached that high. I'd personally give that to the 600. I think the 600 was my favorite race. Part of that might have also been that Prime gave it the coverage it deserved. But like that's where I kind of differ with a lot of that. I would personally give it to the 600. I think that this race is a step below that. I know a lot would also probably give it to the Summer Atlanta race, which I thought was pretty damn good too. Below the apron says Michael Jordan gonna be happy with Denny. Is he gonna be happy or not gonna be happy? Either way, they still had pretty good day. Let's see. Spencer says, as a Red Sox fan, happy my team made the playoffs. Good. Congrats. I know my team's in there with the Cubs, and I want to check really quick. And they beat the Cardinals to finish off the year. So great day. 92-70 on the year. A little momentum. I think they play Tuesday and Wednesday. So both our teams are in. Congrats, man. Young Money says, first off, thank God Zane Smith is okay, but bro thought he was Casey Kane at Bristol. It was Casey Kane at Bristol. Okay, that making sure. Let's see, the banana animal, I think it is, saying Toyota domination the entire race, and they throw it away for a Chevy win. Go Chase. We've seen that happen before. And Chase Elliott's been damn good at this track. Actually, fun kind of side note here. He is in that finish, at Kansas in spring of last year. That is my wallpaper on my computer. And so like I see that picture every day, and I know he's like up there racing in that race. People forget he's really damn good here. He's really consistent, and he had a lot of speed in the spring. I'm kicking myself for not picking him. I was a lap away from my pick of Christopher Bell possibly getting it. Unfortunately, it just didn't work out with the contact and all. But I'm kind of kicking myself for not even having. I don't think. Okay, I did have him on my big board, but I had him 5th behind Larson, Hamlin, Bell, and Briscoe. To my defense, Larson finished 6th, Hamlin finished 2nd, Bell finished 3rd, and Briscoe finished 4th. So it wasn't like I had bad picks this week. Poor Danny. His pick finished 9th, and he's last this week. That's just Danny, if you're watching, sorry, brother. Justin Drake says, as a Briscoe fan, this race is a 50-50, not 50 out of 50, 50-50. Because yes, he's up plus 21 now, but my God, he was getting slapped around by Bubba and Bell. And despite being the only Chase driver to finish top 10 in all the races so far, he's the 7th seed right now. I know it's a shame. It's the talk that they were talking about when Bubba Wallace was bad last week in New Hampshire. Is like all that good he did doesn't matter now. And it's like, well, that sucks. Like it's like Grant said this week on the podcast. There's no way to build that story with it. He's arguably had the most consistent Chase. I like the Chase name better. And he really has little to nothing to show for it. Kyle here with the 10-month member chat, as my voice cracks for some reason, saying, what do we think of the new right tire compound? I think it can probably fall off more. That's what I think. I think that Goodyear can get a little more aggressive with it. I'm assuming they're going to probably do some kind of tests for next year. I'm assuming the tests would probably also be at Charlotte over the winter if they do any. I think it needs to be a little softer, have a little more wear. Guys were taking 2 tires and it really wasn't affecting their car as much as it probably should have. But still a better step, but more steps need to be taken. Jeffrey King says Chase got paid back by the racing gods from the spring incident at Kansas and a couple other different times that he probably should have won and didn't this year. But a very, very solid day turns into the best possible day for him. Let's see. Eric Thank the Destroyer. I believe that's an that picture, at least it looks like an orc from Lord of the Rings. Says, looks like Kansas is back on the menu, boys. Lord of the Rings reference. LOL. Denny for not only stopping him slash 23 from winning, but also let HMS and Chevy win. Bandwagon is a short bus. Let's see. Oh, I thought you said we says, let's go Chase. Crazy finish. Also, Ice, your opinion on Fubo or YouTube TV. I'm debating between them, and I don't know who I should go with. I need my NFL and college football and my NASCAR. So I have YouTube TV, and even though they're in a dispute that was annoyingly put on the screen over and 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 over again in this race, I do really like it, as long as they don't jack up the prices more. Now, I think if like you're a college student or if you have other, first-time signups and stuff, you get less on your first year or something like that. So there is that. I personally like it. I think it functions pretty well. I'm able to record stuff. It gives me at times notifications if I want them on for when a race is starting. So if I get like the time wrong, but at the same time, I think Fubo covers a lot of it too. But it looks like they're saying in the chat, Fubo doesn't have TNT. With YouTube TV, you get everything but Prime. I think at the moment, YouTube TV is like $82.99 a month, which is not terrible when you compare it to like DirecTV and all those other crappy cable companies. I just watch sports with mine. So like, the TV pretty much stays off Monday through Thursday, unless, my pitiful Vikings are playing. And hey, at least I won on the Monday. I would say it's worth it as long as you find other things to get with it too, like, or watch. Like if you have a show, maybe you can watch too. They come with different, like one of the things that was weird is like, they also come with like specific channels, like sports channels. You have other packages too. I know like mine came with like the Walking Dead channel. It's literally nothing but Walking Dead. So like, when they're binging through the first 6 seasons, I can actually watch that. I mean, I think it's worth it, personally. Now, if they keep overpricing it, it won't be worth it. And then I'll just go back to pirating everything. Allegedly. The Racing Rail Fanner says Denny didn't win. 10 out of 10. In all seriousness, that was awesome. Love when races come down to the wire, like that W Chase. I like them when they come down to the wire too. I don't think you really knew until they were rounding the tri-oval who was going to win that race. I think it was pretty damn fun and awesome as well. Josh here says, anyone catching Bubba raging at Denny on the cooldown lap? I didn't see that or hear that. But I wouldn't doubt him being really pissed. He was definitely biting his tongue in his interview, which I think is a big step in maturity for Bubba Wallace. That's for sure. Young Money says, I think Hamlin was lying about the power steering issues because there is no way a car with those issues could run the fastest lap and almost win. So where I'll push back on that is that a lot of time with these power steering issues, it's not like completely gone. It's just like, a lot of times like Steve Letard will say it'll be like 40% gone or something like that. That's more where I think it probably was. Because he definitely was, if you listen to the radio or heard the radio, he definitely was struggling with the car. So I don't think it was necessarily that it was like completely gone, but I definitely think he had more issues for sure. Let's see. Philip saying, are we still firing Alan Gustafson or fun race go 12? Yeah, I think we can put that narrative to bed for a little while, personally, but okay. Joshua Boston saying, this was the greatest experience of my life. It had everything in it, and Chase Elliott gets it at the line in a wild double overtime finish. Thanks to all the fans and staff at Kansas Speedway. 9 out of 9. Well, I'm glad you had a great time. Seems like well worth the money. And, hopefully I'll see you out there next year. I might go to both at this rate. I don't know. We'll see. Austin says, Elliott fan here. I'm very happy. Shout out to Bubba for calling out the 11, even though that's his owner. I don't blame the 11, but man, it's going to be awkward this week for him. Love you, man. I love you too, man. Love all of you guys out there, whether super chat, normal chat, does not matter. Don't have to pay on this channel. Like I said, I've been putting comments on all day before. But yeah, I'm glad he has the stones to at least say it. And I probably think that Denny would be okay with him saying that because Denny is very outspoken himself and he's probably given him free reign for that. So yeah, credit to him for actually going out there and calling him out. Even if it was kind of subdued from where it probably would have been, like he said, 2 or 3 years ago. Nap Racing fan says, thanks Hamlin for the win, losing as a driver and owner. Yeah, but I'd rather guys go for the win than just sort of roll over so they can get an owner win or a driver win or let their own. Like I would much rather them all go out all out like they did in this race than just sort of, well, we'll just we won't go for the win even though it's right there in front of us. And we've seen drivers who hold back too much, and it's not like it's a points thing like in old systems or any of that. It's just some drivers aren't as aggressive, and these guys are. And yeah, they paid for it, but any of them could have won this race. Any of the guys, I'm looking at this finish here and the finishing order, and Elliott, Hamlin, Bell, Briscoe, Bubba, any of those 5 could have won. Any of them could have. Elliott just was the one that played the smartest at the end, and a little luck, sure, with the seas parting for him, but it also has a lot to do with the driver those last few laps. Justin says, really impressed with Denny Hamlin. The fact that he was even able to be in contention for a win with no power steering makes this an impressive race. That's what I'm saying, man. I know people are going to hate on him because it's Denny Hamlin and it's a popular thing to do. But I think a driver gutting it out like that is awesome and should be really pushed as a great, great accomplishment. Austin says, is the 9 back for good now? First multiple win season in 3 seasons. Been waiting for a non-super speedway or road course type win in a while. I don't know if they're necessarily back to that middle 2022 level Chase Elliott and 9 team. But I will say I think they're a lot better and a lot closer than 9 fans honestly give that team credit for. And remember, I mean, he was competing for the win last year at Martinsville. I don't see any reason why he won't be strong there again this year. I think he could win any of the next 3-4 races after the Roval. I think the 88 is the clear-cut favorite with that one, but I don't see why he can't at this point. I think that team's been really fast this year. They've had different times where they've struggled to finish off races. They probably could have won the spring Kansas race. They should have probably won the Dover race this year. They probably should have more than just these wins they have so far. Justin says, so question is, who's finishing second to the Kiwi next week? And who do you see being the 4 drivers out? I'll put the points on the bottom of the screen here. Well, those first 2 will be in for sure. I think Larson will be in, Hamlin, Bell, Byron should be in. And then it goes 7th on down. That's going to be the fun part. So I'll be honest, I think the battles between Briscoe, Logano, and Chastain. Bubba's really good at the Roval. Give him credit there. But I think he might be too far back. Maybe Reddick, if he has 2 really awesome stages, but then even with seconds in both of them, because I unless maybe he stays out for stage wins. I don't know. Cindric for sure out. I'm going to say Bubba's going to be out as much as I thought he would make it past this round. So I'll go Cindric, Bubba. I'm going to sound so chalk here. I think it's going to be the bottom 4. I think it's going to be Chastain, Bubba, Reddick, and Cindric. Unless something happens to I don't know, Briscoe or Logano. But I have learned, even though it's not an even number year, Logano's probably going to advance. Don't underestimate the 22. I know a lot of people think I hate the 22. I don't. All right. I don't. I respect that team's probably going to make it. All right. And if you've learned anything over the last however many years he's been at Penske, the more and more he goes into his tenure there, you don't count him out. I get people don't like him. I get people want him out. But performance does not rely on your desires for how a driver performs, whether fortunately or unfortunately for whichever one of you. GD Shark says, I haven't felt this much agony since the Dez catch. Oof. Oof. Man, that's going to be rough. That's rough, buddy. I should have worn my That's Rough Buddy shirt, but I decided to go all Dale Earnhardt today. This is my 5-time champion shirt. From Dale Earnhardt, 5-time champion. My grandpa's watching. Thank you for giving me that. This shirt's awesome. And now that I'm more in shape, I can fit into it again. Austin says, Jarrett, I know you don't want to talk about it, but NBC and USA proved today that they're no better than Fox. They bring less people to the track than ever before, advertise less, and miss wrecks like Fox does. I'll talk about it a little bit. Because I didn't like the way that it was cutting out a lot of this race. But I'll cover kind of each piece of that. They have brought less people to the track. I've noticed that. I think they have taken a step back. I don't think they're Fox bad, but they have taken a step back this year. I won't go that far. Like, I think Fox is a special level of awful. But they do advertise less. That's just factual at this point. They do miss wrecks, burnouts, bad camera angles a lot more. It's clear that there's not as much money being put into the at-track stuff. That's why I think I've kind of put them. I think they were the last couple of years that A- B+ range. They're probably like a B- C+ range. They're better than TNT. They're better than Fox, but they can't hold a candle to Prime. Whereas I think that pre-2025, they I don't know if they could probably hold a candle to them. They could have been like, that second tier one for good. But I get people being unsatisfied with it so far. Justin says, Dale Jarrett's hard crash in the first Kansas race in 2001 was so bad that he still doesn't remember that race. Oof. Man, it's so crazy to me because I started watching NASCAR a little over 20 years ago now. How different just the entire culture and everything around it is. It's insane how different it is, and these crashes and drivers and all of it. I believe I remember hearing about that at the time, like, when I started watching, because it was only a couple years after that happened. That guy for real says, in the words of Denny Hamlin, he's just a hack. Are you talking about Hamlin? Let's see. Justin here saying, I had to watch on Hulu. Ended up a minute behind the live broadcast just because Hulu is Hulu. I don't know how they fall that far back. Even at the start, it's like 10-second delay behind USA and NBC. Let's see. Oh, and sorry, my dad was texting me back and forth a little bit. Just Kansas memories and stuff. And I see some of y'all in the chat. So I guess I should say this too, just because majority of my family, especially my mom, congrats on the Bears winning. Nice. Good on y'all. We were talking about it before. And so, because her and I were on the phone before the race and talking a bunch. So congrats. Hope you have a good night. Hope you have a good night, Mom, Dad, anyone else out there, family that's watching. I know that like 700 and probably 5 of y'all don't care, but for those 5 that are watching and listening, love y'all. Let's see some of the others here. I think we're closing out here. Justin says, could have had this avoided if all of these races were on NBC. I have an antenna and NBC comes in every day. Yeah, could have avoided a lot of issues. We're going to be saying this for the next 6.5 years. Jeffrey King for the 2 says, Elliott's 1 win a year curse is dead. And Bowman. Oh, my mom says thanks. Awesome. Yeah, Bowman, it's going downhill for Bowman, but the Elliott side of it, it's kind of like he kind of broke through some kind of glass ceiling that's been over that team for a while now. Slowly but surely, each year they have been getting better. Rowdy 8 Diecast, when I pretend KB isn't out there, I have fun. I have a fun watch. Yeah, I bet you do. That very much reminds me of mid 2008 to 2010 Dale Jr. fandom. Welcome to the suck. Marky Mark says rain tires at the Roval. I know there's a chance of rain. It keeps going up. As long as it doesn't storm, I see no reason why. When they've done it before, whether it be Trucks, Xfinity, or Cup, I would love to see a rain race personally. Those races are so fun. I got to be at the first rain race at Coda, and that was a blast. Even though I was drenched, sunburnt, it was miserable, but so fun at the same time. It was like the closest to being at an outdoor weather impacted football game ever. And I having that NASCAR feel with it just made it a blast. Justin with the 20 says, was it fair Bubba got put in the wall? And he did try slamming Bell into the wall twice and succeeded the second time, and squeezed Briscoe in the wall earlier, which it's just racing. But was it fair? Denny returned the favor to Bubba. To me, again, I think it's hard racing, pushing up the track, getting into each other. I think it's okay. If you're willing to dish it out and have it back and forth, I think it's okay, personally. I don't think it covered too much. By the way, that's not a cat. That's the kiddo out there, if y'all heard that. Ibolt says, I wanted to super chat this yesterday, but didn't get a shot. Will be listening from work. What did you think of Leland Honeyman's save yesterday? Dude's becoming a clench merchant. 9 out of 10 race today. I thought that was badass, personally. I thought that was really, really badass. Yeah, and the famous Ice Cube, as we call her. I thought it was a badass save. I thought it was a really great save, and I'd like to see what he can do with better equipment. And maybe it's nothing, but I enjoy seeing awesome drivers do awesome things, and you kind of forget that all the way through the field, even in the Xfinity series, those are still some pretty immensely talented drivers, especially since we got like Chris Wright out of there. D-Dog Dizzle says, love the channel, Jarrett. Big win for Chase. Let's effing go. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And yeah, it is a big win. And I think it breaks a couple narratives now for him. So it's just definitely going to be interesting to see how far he can get. Again, those points are going to make a big difference. That's 5 more. Heading into the next 2 week, after next week, the final penultimate 3 before the last one. So that definitely is, I think, a big deal, both points wise, momentum wise, confidence wise. I agree. Let's see. Mom 9098 for the 20 says, my husband would have loved that Chase won and that he beat Bubba at the end. Unfortunately, I lost him May 10th, the day before the spring Kansas race. This race weekend has been very special for me. Well, I am sorry for your loss. But I have to imagine that he's probably looking down and enjoying every little bit of that race, and of him getting that win at the end the way he did too, and especially against Denny Hamlin. I'm assuming, being a Chase fan, there's probably that rivalry still with Denny, that had to make it just all the better. So I really hope that Chase winning and this race just completely as a fun race in general, I hope it did a lot of good for you. And again, I'm sorry for your loss. I can't imagine. Thomas saying Kansas and Missouri estates, meh. I like them. Let's be fair. Lived there for 6 years though, so you probably know more than me. But have great sports and food. Correct, very correct. The food there is awesome. Sports are awesome. Definitely agree on that part. Kyle says, thanks for doing these, Ice. It makes these 5-hour drives from New Orleans to Houston much easier. Hope to see you, Danny, and Eric at Dega one year. 69 out of 69 for your post-race coverage. I appreciate it. I am glad, because I like to ramble, so that these will probably go for over an hour almost every single time. Danny and Eric have to put the restrictor plate on me when it comes to NWP, so we don't go 3 hours. But I appreciate all the kind comments, and not this year, but definitely one of the next couple of years. The 3 of us should all get out to Dega again, and in the infield too. Like, That would be fun. I would love to do like a huge meetup in the infield one of these years at Talladega for sure. Justin says, does Eric need to go on watch this week? Houston won today and Detroit lost, so they're tied for the last wild card spot. But because they lost the season series 4-2, Detroit got the spot over Houston. I think he'll be okay. He's got a couple World Series to go back and watch. And I say this as a Cubs fan, it makes any bad moment as a Cubs fan better to go back to 2016. So I think Eric will be okay. But I'll be sure to make sure. Twin Spinner says Chase Elliott has won at 4 of the last 5 tracks. That is true. Telling you what, man, they're solid. They're getting more solid, I think, speed wise. They kind of lulled for a bit. Now they're getting better at it. I wouldn't count them out. These are some pretty good tracks for that 9 team. Justin says Fox Prime and TNT have done a better job at advertising than NBC has this year. They all advertise commercials and advertise during sport events. I think you're probably right. I would say Fox does pretty good at cross promoting in their sports. They're the best at it. That's something they have not gotten worse at. Prime was just a blitz. TNT, I would almost put it in the same realm as NBC. Joshua says, to be honest, I don't know if there is a black flag I can really give for this weekend. I had everything. It had everything. God, I can't read today. It had everything for a first-time attendee to enjoy, from the fan zone to the race itself. 20 out of 10 weekend. That's what I'm saying, man. Kansas is a blast. Sure, is it a bit older, like 2000s, early 2000s kind of track, and needs probably some updates? Sure, I'll give you that. But I think that a lot of the accommodations they made in the stands are pretty good. As long as you're not sitting up in the stands and get the pipes bursting on you like it did for me and my dad for like 2 or 3 straight years. That's like my only complaint really. Fan zone has a lot more than I think people give credit for. And the racing is awesome. So yeah, I mean, I implore people, if you want to go for a fun experience and great racing, because a lot of tracks don't offer both, go to Kansas. You just go up there one year. Plus, you got great food. There's a lot of good hotels around the area and still pretty good areas around there. They've built up around the racetrack. I would want as many people as possible to go. I know they had competition against the Kansas City Chiefs game today. I wonder how'd that go. Kansas City won pretty convincingly. Damn. But I really think that you definitely should go. I thought you gave TNT a D+. I think I gave it like a early on, definitely. They definitely got better as it went on. Free drink, Jarrett. I'd be down with free beer, definitely. And Hunter Nixon Fishing says death, taxes, my dogs still can't beat Alabama, and a wild Kansas wreck. I don't know about the college football side. I'm assuming that's probably how it always goes. I was talking to Napa. I mean, Napa gets free drink too. It's all good. But yeah, wild Kansas wrecks, they happen way more than people think. So, but that is going to do it. All right. Remember, this Wednesday we'll be live NWP on Eric Estep's channel. Jeff Faviano coming on. Again, we're talking about Kansas, any of the new different things to go on. News wise, of course, NASCAR 25 and the Roval, among other things. Be making videos through the week, and we're on the path now. We're over 90K. I got to do it live with y'all. We are on the path now to 100,000 subscribers. So subscribe if you're new. We do this after every one of the Truck, Xfinity, and Cup races, good or bad. I love when we have good ones like this. Justin here says, who has the best ticker? In my opinion, CW does. I love how it's not on the left of the screen. Every network needs to return to that. I'm going to go off on a limb, and I know I didn't like it at first, but I've really grown to like it. I like the CW. Yeah, I do like the CW too. I'm with you. I think that's often a limb for a lot of people, but I like it. I really like the CW's presentation. So I'm with you on that. CW all the way. personally. I know that a lot of people like the other ones on than the towers, but I kind of like the black on the bottom. Um, all right, y'all have a great night. I'm gonna go have a beer or something, man. That was great. Later, y'all. Have a great